The definition of stigma is a mark of disgrace associated with a particular circumstance, quality, or person. I've also found that when the word stigma is used in conversation, it can be referring to any trait of someone's personality, positive or negative, that an outside observer believes the person is likely to exhibit. There's always been various predeterminations for people as we are observed from the outside and as we too observe others from the outside. Stigmas are formed in our minds when something goes against the grain of what we believe is right or makes sense. In this case, we're focusing on what happens when a boy does something that is believed a girl would do. Now, isn't that the story of the Brony phenomenon in a nutshell? A heavily critical article about how Hasbro is sinking to new lows and rebooting their My Little Pony franchise is posted to 4chan. People outside Hasbro's originally intended demographic check out the show out of curiosity. Now, some embrace it for the pure enjoyment of the style and quality, some embrace it out of irony and or rebellion against quote-unquote social norms or quote-unquote gender roles, and some embrace it for stranger motivations. Some embrace it for the thrill of simply finding something new to hate on. Almost all of these people pass it on to other people they know, and with each new person finding out about it, they have a variety of reactions, lather, rinse, and repeat until the show's viewership became what it is today, with opinions changing along the way for better or worse. And this all because it's meant for little girls, right? I will admit, I have not yet bothered to watch too much of the older generations of My Little Pony, so everything I say from here until further notice is a reflection of a general consensus from the fans of the current generation. The first generation was very much intended for girls and reflected so in the animation style, voice acting, and writing. However, it still had an interesting story arc and a great villain, and sometimes I hear about how the action was good or bad, but like I said before, ultimately I don't know. So the opinions among bronies seem to range between medial enjoyment and loathing. Then we get to the second generation, which was geared towards an even younger audience. Villains in action have been replaced with slice of life and a candy-themed world. One of the most common story arc synopses I hear is how one of the characters is trying to attract the attention of a cult who doesn't seem to care. Now, whenever I hear this, I ask the question, do girls aged 5 to 12 care much about this? In all honesty, I've only met a couple of girls in that age range who care about relationships with boys in general, so I am begging anyone who can tell me, if that is true, then what was the purpose of the second generation? Did the creators of the show really not understand their demographic, or is there something I'm missing? Then, as the story goes, it just gets worse and worse from there, with each generation attempting to appeal to a younger audience with brighter colors, girlier themes, and increasingly annoying voice acting, and please see Obscurus Lupa's review of the Princess Promenade for further reference on that. And then the fourth generation comes along. The animation was smooth and well done, the characters evolved beyond doing each other's hair and frolicking to having actual families, jobs, responsibilities, and conflicts, and the voice acting improved by leaps and bounds, showing that entertainment for girls could be something beyond typical themes seen thus far in children's entertainment. But all of that begs the question of, did any of it work? I don't have any children, and the little girls I've known, be them nieces, students, or children of friends, among them I have never seen an interest in the franchise, so I'm tempted to say from personal observation that none of it really worked. But allow me to tell you a funny story demonstrating the one exception I've seen to this. My older sister, who before I was born played with the original My Little Pony toys, recently brought out her old box of pony toys for her 2-year-old son, who was absolutely enthralled to play with them as well. My father was not too happy, and I quote, "My grandson is not going to play with My Little Pony." However, my sister ignored him and proceeded to explain to my 2-year-old nephew that the toys always came with some kind of gimmick, be it a doll's hair, scented ponies, bright colors, or something to simulate taking care of the ponies as infants, and the list goes on. So to sum up what my media literacy classes taught me about marketing, perhaps for whatever reason, girls, on average, do have some sort of biological wiring to be nurturing, while boys, also on average, are more aggressive. Now there's nothing wrong with that as itself, and usually things only get messed up when people try to challenge it on its face value. Toy companies, in this case namely Hasbro, took that knowledge as an opportunity and created their shows as a way to advertise and supplement the experience of their toy franchises. Lord knows they did the same thing with boys as well, with Transformers being the first thing that comes to mind, but I'll talk about Transformers another time. So with the writing of the previous generations of the show as a tie-in to the product, the answer to the question of the previous generations of My Little Pony being meant for little girls is a big, fat yes. And as stated before, once something has been established as being for little girls, or for any one particular group for that matter, when someone outside that particular group partakes in it, a stigma will be developed by outside observers. This stigma carried itself over to the Friendship is Magic series, even though it didn't have very much to do with the previous generations. But what is Friendship is Magic's intended demographic? Miss Faust stated that she wanted to throw back to a classical Looney Tunes / slapstick type of comedy while staying within the parameters given to her by the show itself. Now, if I'm on the right track with that, this was most likely done for the purpose of being enjoyable to anyone, so that the show could be enjoyed as a family, and not just something that a parent would sit in front of their kids to babysit them for 30 minutes. Now, because the stigma carried over from previous generations, I sometimes hear people talk about how the brony phenomenon is redefining gender roles. Now to this, I ask, which gender roles? Is it just the expectation that a man should not watch a show for little girls? If that's the case, it's not even applicable because Friendship is Magic was not intended solely for little girls. Also, I do not believe that this qualifies as a gender role in the first place. Gender roles are not nearly this specific, and I'm actually quite baffled that people would be so specific to think that a choice in cartoon could determine a man or woman's role in society. I only know of one actual set of gender roles. There are the subtle differences in nurturing and providing instincts between a man and a woman that may explain why the average boy or girl might take to certain activities over others. A man and woman will bring different, complementary, and equally valuable nurturing tendencies to the table of raising their child together in a loving environment, thus most likely bringing up the child to be a well-rounded and productive member of society once it reaches adulthood. This is literally as deep as gender roles go. Not very much difference really when you think about it. So in conclusion, while I understand the origins of the stigma behind My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, I believe it's a non-issue, and those who assign this stigma are missing a much bigger point. But if you believe I missed a point that should be touched on or considered, please let me know, and we'll have a discussion about it. If you have a topic on bronies, ponies, news, or anything in general that you would like to hear discussed, or if you have an episode, fanfiction, product, or anything else you would like to hear reviewed, send me a YouTube message or leave a comment below. You can also drop comments, questions, topic suggestions, and review suggestions by liking Brony Debates on Facebook, following on Twitter, or sending an email to bronydebates@yahoo.com. Have a great day, and I look forward to speaking with all of you soon.